Okay, so hello everyone. I am Priyanshu, a computer engineering student here at Kathmandu University, and currently I'm in my fourth semester, and I'm also a fellow Microsoft Learn student ambassador. And about a week before, I got promoted to Alpha, so this is the first event that I am conducting as a Microsoft Learn student ambassador. So I was really excited and I was looking forward to this event because it was about cloud computing, which is something that I was really fascinated about since the beginning of the bachelor's. Um, so there are more people coming in, so I'm having difficulty managing it all. Um, so let's get started with cloud computing. So what can you expect from the event? So what I understood was many people they don't know about cloud computing, but there are some people who have already idea about what cloud computing is. So I have prepared the slides in a way that everyone can understand the basics of cloud computing, and they have a certain level of idea about what cloud computing is. And then we will dive into the services provided by the cloud, and we will move on to the different types of cloud computing. And this is further divided into two models. One is the deployment model and the service model. So there are cloud computings depending upon the deployment model, and types of cloud computing is dependent on the service model. And then we'll give a brief introduction about Microsoft Azure. And then in the end, we will talk about the benefits that we acquire using cloud computing. So let's get started. So when I say cloud computing, what is the thing that comes to your mind? Like what visualization do you get when I say cloud computing? Can you write down in the chats? Okay, so I can get the answers. A group of computers intended for the purpose where we pay as we go. Okay, someone who knows cloud computing. Computers floating in clouds. Yes, something like that. Bunch of computers on cloud, maybe. Okay, yes. So when we say cloud computing, we automatically visualize a cloud with computers, and we think that there might be certain relations of computers and in this cloud. So let's go on to definition and know what actually cloud computing is. So according to the definition, cloud computing is the delivery of computing services, which includes the servers, storage, databases, and networking software, etc., over the internet. And this is referred to as the cloud. So we might think that cloud computing is a new term for us, and we might feel like we have never heard about cloud computing. But what if I tell you that you have used cloud computing based services time and again, and you have no idea that it was cloud computing services? So I guess most of you have used Gmail, OneDrive, Google Drive, iCloud, Netflix, Heroku, Google Photos, and many more of such cloud computing based services. So, Gmail is something that we use frequently. Google Drive, OneDrive, one of the cloud features of Apple, Netflix to watch movies, Heroku to deploy our apps. So cloud computing is something this base services is something that we have been using, but we could never find it out that it was something related to cloud computing. So that there was a gap for students to understand about cloud computing, and therefore I decided why not, like students get to know about what cloud computing is so that they can better understand what kind of applications that they are using in the like their day-to-day life. So here Gmail is a software as a service type of cloud computing, whereas Heroku is a platform as a service types of cloud computing. And the different types of cloud computing we will be talking in the later part of this of the slides. So first of all, like let's just get to an example to explain you what exactly cloud computing is and how it can help you. So let us imagine I am someone who wants to start my new business, and I am looking forward to participating in some startups, and I want to do something of my own. So what I do is that I formulate the ideas, I have the data, the requirements, the files, and then I store it in my personal individual computer, and that works for me, right? But what if at certain point of time I want, like, the business grows and it is not sufficient for me to work alone, and I need more employees. So that means that there will be, like, 100 employees that I'll be hiring to work on the business. And for this, now it's not sufficient for me to use my own data or like my files, but now there should be a way to store the data of the employees, the files they access, and there should be a smooth transitions, right? So in this we can say, like, okay, so for the storage purpose, we can use the hard drive, we can use the SSD, we can, like, maybe establish a computer system, because as there is more manpower, there is more data, and it requires more storage, and other services are required. So that might be a thing. But then let's start from the beginning. When I invest in my business, I'm already investing a lot of money, and then when I hire people to work for me, I'll have to pay them. Plus, if I'm using hardware devices, SSD, etc., they come with their cost. And that is not enough, because these hardware devices, these are the physical devices that require maintenance. And for them, I will have to hire a tech team differently. And that causes more cost, right? So investing in a business will become more hazardous for me, because I'll have to uh, invest a lot of money in this. So now this is also not enough, because these devices, SSDs, hard drives, and computer system might, not work, or might come into a problem. And for that also, now I have to repair them, maintain them, manage them. So it is always trouble working with physical devices, especially to an investor who is who wants to start it small but who grows with time. But there is so many barriers of cost and maintenance, like that. These devices, he's not being able to utilize these devices to the fullest. So that is really something that every business person or every organization and company is suffering at the present. So, what if I tell you that you don't have to go through this stress? You don't have to go through the stress of finding money, investors, like managing team for the management of hardwares, or like think about, worry about the security aspect, etc. So, what if you could, like, get rid of all those problems, and you will not have to, like, suffer financially? So there comes cloud computing. So in cloud computing is basically the idea of streaming data, running application, and many more services without worrying about maintenance, security, and management of tech teams. So, with advancement in technology encompassing networkings, storage, processing power, and this is the epitome of computing, which is the cloud computing. Because individuals, we often find it more easy to manage files over internet rather on a local storage device, because over internet it is very easy to access from any location, as it is stored in the internet. So that is why cloud computing is has set a milestone for many people, and many people, they shift from on premise to cloud computing, because they find it easy to, like, cope up with the services and provided by the cloud service providers. So let's get more into cloud computing. And for that, let's take an example of Google Photos, because I feel this is something that is that we all have utilized, right? So what do we basically do in Google Photos? So we upload the photos in Google Photos, and then we can delete it from our devices, even if our device gets lost, destroyed, or we are traveling to different place without the devices, we'll not have to worry because we we can get access to the photos that we've uploaded in Google Photos without any interruptions. We just need an steady internet connection and certain credentials that is required to access the pictures, right? So cloud computing is also one of such ideas where you don't have to worry about your the maintenance, you don't have to worry about the security, or you don't have to worry what if I don't have my gadgets, because it is not stored physically. You don't need your hard drives, you don't need your pen drive, so it cuts down so many costs, and it makes your storing and networking and computing so much easier, that cloud computing is what is necessary for people like student who are facing troubles with their storage problem in laptop. Doesn't mean that you buy another laptop, or doesn't mean you need additional hardware, something that you might not even half make a use of, right? So cloud computing is something that you can like just use, and you'll just pay as much as you use. So we'll come later on that. So first, let's just briefly talk about the history. How did we reach to the cloud computing? And then we can move on to other aspects of cloud computing. So in the figure, as you can see, it's a dedicated server where there is one physical machine. This is a physical machine, and this is a single business, single business. So you can say this physical machine is catered towards a single person, like a single business. And with the help of that, he generates or he runs an website. Okay, so in this, what we can say that dedicated server is a type of web hosting in which a single tenant rents an entire server from a Okay, so I'll just give a brief introduction to dedicated server again if I was not audible. So in this server, basically there is a physical machine that caters towards a personal business, and then there is it runs only a single website or web page at a time. So then let's move on to virtual private server. So in this virtual private server, as you can see, there is one physical machine. However, it runs various web applications and websites. So this is because this physical machine is treated as sub virtual machines, which renders these websites. Okay, so though there is only one single user, but it can host or it can run many other websites. So in this, each virtual environment has a separate server, so users have more control over their server environment, and they can install the custom server software, configure the server to meet their specific requirements, and have root access. So it is also more secure than shared hosting that we'll be talking about later in this presentation, as virtual environment is isolated from others because this physical machine is you know it is divided into sub machines. So then we talk about the shared hosting. So as you can see, there are different users, or like you can see different businesses sharing the same server to run multiple websites and or web applications. So this is what shared hosting is. So in this, what happens is that it is a type of web hosting where multiple websites are hosted on the same server, sharing the server's resources as such as memory and processing power. And this makes it a cost effective solution for individuals and small businesses who want to host their websites. So, in this, what happens is that though, this person might be using the majority of resources and this person might be using the least of the resources, however, all the three of them have to pay the same level of cost. Okay, so that is like kind of unfair to someone who is doing who is not using the resources as much as the other. So that could be a problem. uh, now the solution to that is cloud hosting. So here comes cloud hosting. So in cloud hosting, what happens is that all the virtual, all the physical machines, they act as a single system. So in this, it refers as a network of remote servers that are hosted on the internet, and it is used to store, manage, and process data. So in this, the users have the ability to access their data and applications from anywhere, as long as they have a strong internet connection. So with a cloud computing, users pays only for the resources they use, and it makes it a cost-effective solution, because in this, the payment of the user is not dependent upon each other. Rather, if this person wants to scale up, he needs more services, then he will be paying more, and if he needs the less services, he'll be paying less. So it works on a pay as you go model. So that is how, the development of cloud hosting came from dedicated servers, where it was just dedicated to one website, to virtual private server, in which a physical machine was divided into several virtual machines, with the hosting of different web apps and websites, and then shared hosting, which kind of was very cheap, because there were many people sharing the same server. However, it was a kind of limited, because not many users could access the same server. And among all of these, cloud hosting is the most flexible, scalable, cost effective, and highly configurable cloud hosting. So now, with this, we move on to common cloud services. So there are many cloud services providers that we know. We know Microsoft Azure, we know Oracle, we know Google Cloud, even iCloud, and there are IBM Cloud. So these all are cloud service providers. However, and they have various types of services that they give to the users. However, some of the common cloud services are compute, storage, networking, and database. In compute, so let's talk about the first one, which is compute. So by the name itself, it's computing. So you can compare it to as a virtual computer that can help you run your app, program, and code that you like. If you want to run an app on other remote computers, then you can do that using this service of the cloud service providers. So another is storage, and you can think of it as a virtual hard drive that can store files. So basically, you don't need to store everything on your gadgets or laptops. You can store the files that you feel that you'll be needing them more often, and you'll be needing them across locations. So you can store them on the cloud. And then database, you can store you can also think of it as a virtual database for sharing or reporting data, and other for you can use it for other general purpose of web applications, etc. And then in networking aspect, you can think of it as a virtual network, which can also be defined as interconnections and network isolations, etc. So all of these features or services are provided by the cloud service. So now even though there are different kind of services, storage is also accessible, database, networking, compute. However, cloud is we refer to it as cloud computing. So the cloud computing kind of sums up all the categories. So that is what the different cloud services were. Now we'll talk about the types of cloud computing, or you on the basis of service model. Okay, so there is software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructures as a service. So we can say SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Okay, so that is their short forms. But now let's get to it in details. So software as a service, by the name itself, software as a service is which provides a software to the which provides a software application. So it is a service that delivers a software application, and it is which the cloud service provider manages to its user. Like SaaS apps are web applications or mobile applications that users can access via a browser. Software updates, fixes, and other general software maintenance are taken care of for the user, and they are connected to the cloud applications, and they can just work in it, and they'll not have to configure or manage anything. Just like, for example, mail. Okay, Office 365, everything is so easily available to us. Even you can take like Google Drives, etc. So these are the software as a service, cloud computing, in which the user does not have to do a lot, because everything is provided. You just, they're just data and access that you need to follow through. Otherwise, all the other maintenance, application configurations, and security, everything is meant, given by the cloud service provider. So that has made our lives so easier, right? So see, Gmail, Office 365, these are what we use in our daily lives, and still we did not have clue that these were, one of the types of like cloud computing. So then we have platform as a service. So it is also a type of cloud computing, and it means that the hardware and an application software program platform are provided and managed by the cloud service provider, but the user has to handle the apps running on the platform, just like Heroku. Like, it provides us the platform, but we need to run it, we need to handle the apps running on the top of the platform, and they'll not have control over it. So there are certain aspects that they will, we as audience don't have to manage. But there are other also things that we'll have to look after, like the running of the app, or the bugs and fixes, everything we'll have to do it ourselves. So in software as a service, it was more liberal, and we did not have to take much into consideration, whereas in platform as a service we need to take certain more things into consideration. So primarily like so it primarily for developers and programmers, it gives users a shared cloud platform for application development and management, without having to build and maintain the infrastructures usually associated with the process. So we don't have to really, go through the process, but we should look for the things that is running on the platform they have provided. So with this, we have the last one, which is infrastructures as a service. So in this, you can see the example. It's AWS, Microsoft Azure, and this means that it is a cloud service provider which manages the infrastructures for you, the actual servers, network, virtualization, and data storage through an internet connection. So the user has access through an API or maybe a dashboard, and essentially rents the infrastructure, and the user manages things like operating systems and apps and a middleware, while the provider takes care of any hardware, networking, hard drives, hard stored data storage, and servers. And it has the responsibility of taking care of outages, repairs, and hardware issues. So you don't have to take care of all of those issues that were bugging you in the first place. You just have to look after, manage things like operating systems, apps. So that is what is infrastructure as a service. So you can see the table here. So this is a very informative table, and it shows you much about what cloud provider, cloud service provider, does for you, and how easy it makes your life. So just look at this. On premises, if there was not something like cloud computing, then we had to handle all these, maybe 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 things. This 8 tasks on our own. We had to access the data, and then applications, runtime, operating system, virtual machine, all of these things we had to take into consideration, and we had to manage it on our own. Whereas, let's start from infrastructure as a service. We don't have to. The cloud provider manages the storage for us, us, the networking for us, and compute for us, which makes things a little more easier for us. However, there are many other things that we have to look after. So, with like comparing this to a platform as a service, we have to look for a fewer things like data and access and applications, whereas the runtime, operating system, virtual machine, compute, networking, storage is all what a cloud provider manages for us. So, in the software as a service, we can see that. You know, okay, so in a software as a service, we can see that data access is the only thing that we'll have to look after, and all the other applications, runtime, operating system, virtual machines, compute, networking, storage is what the cloud provider will manage for us. Now, let's talk about Microsoft Azure. And we know that Microsoft is a multinational company, computer technology, and it has, has manufactured many software, phones, tablets, games, cloud services, and many more. And it is best known for its operating system, Windows. And Microsoft Azure is one of its cloud service providers. So all these things that I've talked about, right from the services, common cloud services like compute, storage, networking, database forms the fundamental structures of Microsoft Azure, and it provides you to start a free trial, and you can go on, you can know about you can bring ease to this management of your database files and storage problems. So Microsoft Azure is a great platform, and it not only helps you manage your files and database, but it is also important for you to understand that not every time you'll have to invest much on your hardware aspect as much as in the subscription. So then there are other cloud service providers also, like AWS, Oracle, Google Cloud, etc., which also provides like the services of compute, storage, networking, and databases. And these providers have equally helped, in uplifting this computing world, where it has made it so easy for all of us to actually, manage all our stuffs virtually over internet, and which has made us so we can go to any part of the location and access it freely. So these are the um, common cloud other cloud service providers. So now we'll talk something about the um, mm, different types of cloud computing depending upon the deployment model. And for that, I got a very interesting idea from one of these sessions. So it was about comparing it to a bus, car, and a taxi. So a public cloud is like a bus. So what happens in a bus? You pay for your seat, right? So let's not take the examples of Nepali buses, because buses in Nepal, because you don't get a seat so often. However, in a bus, actually there is a general rule is that it is accessible to anyone, and you pay for how many seats you take, right? So that is what a public cloud looks like. So in public cloud also, as Azure development models, we have public cloud where everything is built on the cloud provider. And with that, there is another where you pay for what you get, and nothing more, nothing less. And you then there is private cloud, which is owned by a single person. You can take a fancy car which is bought by a person, by paying a huge amount of money upfront. So private cloud is something like that, where everything built on the company, everything is built on the company data centers. And it is very expensive, though it is highly securable, but it is very expensive compared to the buses. And that is what it is in our real lives too. Buses are more cheap in terms of all these, right? So a hybrid cloud is like a taxi when you want a comfort of your own car, but you don't have the money to pay for it. So you can get with a taxi, so you can find the comfort of your own car, but without it expenses. So the mixture of public and private would be a hybrid cloud, which uses both the public cloud and private cloud, making it easy for us to access whichever we want to at that moment. So so these are also the development deployment models of Azure. So Microsoft Azure is like a cloud computing services created by Microsoft for building, testing, deploying, and managing applications and services to Microsoft managed data centers. So this also provides all those software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service, and supports many different programming languages, tools, and frameworks, including both Microsoft specific and third party software and system. So I feel like after this session, you should just visit Microsoft Azure and learn more about its modules. And yes, you can get a lot of benefits from it. So now, just after all the things that we've uh, learned throughout this event, we have spoken more about how on-premise is different from cloud computing. We have known the different types of cloud computing, and we have also had a brief idea about the deployment models and how, public, private, and hybrid cloud um, are different from one another. So I guess all of you have basic knowledge of what cloud computing is and how it has helped in the present day, and you have also known its importance. So let's just weigh the pros and cons, or maybe like we can say differentiate between the on-premise and cloud computing. So the first difference, which is very evident, is higher pay and less scalability on the side of on-premise, because you are paying for the hardwares, you're paying for the physical devices which you don't know will serve you till its time, or you can utilize it freely without knowing that you are just buying hardwares upon hardwares and everything. And yeah, and it is not scalable, meaning that you can't reduce the size of the hardware that you brought, or you can't upgrade the size of the hardware that you brought, or SSD, or any physical system, right? So but in cloud computing, you just pay for what you use. You can scale up, you can scale down, and with that your pricing, price point, everything, it just it's so flexible and it's so scalable that cloud computing wins on premise in this aspect. So about the poor data security, you might think that on premise is something that the individuals handle on their own. There's private, like business, and that therefore the security may be high. But there comes the problem of monetary finances again. So because for high data security, there requires a lot of investments, and many businesses that are on premise, they cannot handle such uh, expenses to afford high data security. Whereas cloud computing is something these big companies like Microsoft, Google, even Apple and IBM, all these big companies are investing upon the cloud service providers, meaning that they feel meaning that they have better security, than the on-premise. Then we talk about the less chance of data recovery on in on-premise, data replication, or we can say if the hardware is damaged or everything is damaged, it takes longer time, and also it is not, I guess, it's not cost efficient for data recovery. Whereas in cloud computing, it is very easy to recover the data, even if you have you can store the data easily, and there is disaster recovery. So even in some certain times, if you have accidentally deleted files, or the corrupted files, everything, there is a faster recovery with less amount of monetary value going in. So that is the aspect of data recovery. So mm uh, in about the space requirements, so if in on premise I decide to like have servers of my own, or like manage the hardwares and any kind of physical system, then I will be requiring huge space that goes on both monetary value or and also like you'll just have to maintain it, and the like the cost, the effort that you put into it, I feel that is too much draining. And whereas in cloud computing there's no requirement of huge spaces, you just can like as you use as much services as you want, and you just pay for what you use, and you don't have to like have a physical space necessary to conduct all those activities. So another aspect is about the maintenance. So hardware and physical devices are not are non-tangible, and we can't like ensure its not like we can't ensure it's working for a full term, right? So there might be certain problems, there might be certain maintenance issues and repairing that uh, mm, hardware can go through. So now you need a team to look after the hardware, the software maintenance, and you are like constantly you have to think about the strategies and ideas. Okay, how can I recover from this, and how can this can be done, or like maybe talk about data recovery and data security, everything. So you'll be needing a team which you need to invest more upon. So I feel that in on premise you'll have to give a lot of your time and effort to something that you could have easily avoided by using cloud computing, where because in cloud computing you don't need any maintenance team, or you don't need any kind of like support from other teams, or you don't have to pay someone else or to look after the security and maintenance, because it is easily provided by the cloud service providers. Moreover, on premises lacks flexibility. So um, in a way it lacks flexibility, I can say that if you have an organization, okay, so where you have to like switch the roles, or you have to switch the ideas or strategies, or switch the files in a way that you need to bend the business in a different kind of turn. So you have to turn the business in a different route. So for that, in on premise you'll be having a difficult time managing the data, sorting the data, categorizing the data, finding the data. First you need to collect it from everywhere, and this is a very less flexible process. Whereas in cloud computing, everything, if you want to change the data, if you want to like change the route of the business, it's very easy using cloud computing. And also in on premise, like if you have any softwares or hardware, so you will be responsible for the automatic updates, and you'll be responsible for the uh, any other kind of like advancement in technology that comes along. But in cloud computing, automatic, everything happens automatic. You'll not have to worry about anything, you don't have to worry about the latest operating system or latest anything. You just be carefree. I guess they'll bother you a little only when it comes to updating things, whereas in on premise you'll have to look after everything on your own. And another is data cannot be accessed remotely. So in on-premise, if you go farther away without a laptop, you'll not be able to do any work. Like I guess the concept of work from home only came after like because there was something like cloud computing. If on premise, then I guess work from home will be something that was very far-fetched idea, because data cannot be accessed remotely. If I have to if I want to get access to the files for the storing of my databases and etc., I'll have to travel with all the devices, all the hardwares, and that's going to be a very hectic procedure, right? But in cloud computing, I can access data from any part of the world. We have seen that using Google Drives, we using emails. I don't have to basically, take a storage of my emails somewhere, because emails are stored automatically. Like, I can delete them, I can manipulate them in any way possible. So like these are some of the qualities of the cloud computing that makes it that makes it what it is today. That is why I say that the Advancement in tech encompassing network, storage, and processing power has led to this epitome of computing, which is the cloud computing. So now, knowing the advantages and disadvantages, mostly the advantages of cloud computing and disadvantages of on-premise, I guess we have reached to the end where we, like compare the different facts of cost, etc. So. In a way, I just wanted to like I like this concept too, so I just copied it from some kind of lecture on fundamentals of cloud computing. So there is this, like, when you look from the top, you feel like the amount of money like you are investing on Azure subscription pack, and the amount of money you are using on hardwares is the same. So in the, like, let's take this as the upper part of the lake, and this as the lower part of the lake. So you feel like the amount of subscription is also equivalent to the cost for hardwares, but the what lies below it is what makes a difference. So in Azure, you don't have to manage this physical security, hardware, IT personnel, maintenance, and in the long run, Azure or any other cloud service provider is something that provides you with the services in a very much low cost and even high efficiency, whereas in on premise you'll have to struggle managing the physical security, hardware, IT personnel, maintenance, and this is what causes us to um, get more drained out, or like made to make us more invest on certain things which which we can have easily avoided. So that was it about the implementation part and the cost effective analysis. So with this, I feel that we have I hopefully have made it clear to all of you about what cloud computing is. And now I guess, when if I ask you on the question of what do you imagine when I say cloud computing, it wouldn't just be clouds with computers, but it would be just more than that. You will understand about all the things, like its importance, first of all, because I guess me as a computer science student, I felt the computer engineering student, I felt that I should have been more inclined towards this, and I should have known about it earlier, because there were point of time in my life where I used to feel that, okay, if my device is not having enough storage, I'll have to get a new one, or that kind of mentality where you can, like, you have, like, you should get along with the newest technologies. And as you know more about it, I personally feel that there is a lot more in this field that I have to know even about cloud computing. But these were the things that I learned from the learning paths and learning modules that were available in Microsoft Learn, and that has really helped me understand the cloud computing. And I hopefully have rendered, or like shared how much I could with all of you. And I feel that will just create a little spark in you to understand more about cloud computing and explore it yourself. So that has to be the end of the presentation. Thank you for being such wonderful audience. I'm really grateful that you guys have helped me pull off this event. So in the end, it's just why you have to use cloud computing. I guess all these GSCR, SC, SE, all these terms will be there with you, as it is global, secure, reliable, scalable, and elastic. So the next time someone asks why cloud computing, then please remember the points of this meet. And with this, I would like to end the presentation part of the event officially. So thank you, everyone. So now, as I have ended the slides, I'll be happy to answer your queries if anyone of you have some. Okay, so I have a question. I still have slight confusion regarding the security of cloud computing? Can you clarify it further? Okay. So yes, it was something that I also was struggling and juggling to find about. Okay, so how is on-premise not so much secure than the cloud computing? But there are certain reasons why, and I'll address you to that. So uh, data encryption, the major reason is data encryption. So in these cloud service providers, in their services, data encryption plays a very significant role. And they, like, there is robust data encryptions within the cloud based security systems that have sustainably, substantially reduced the possibilities of data breaches by offering a layered approach, so I feel that that is one of the reasons. Another is also the high standards of these cloud service providers, which is not really, not really maintained by in-home service offices. Like in offices, you can't expect that standards that is followed by these cloud service providers. Also, physical access, because cloud service providers have incredibly high standards for enforcing those rules and protocols also. So also, I guess that were the reasons that would, uh, make the cloud computing better, secure than the other. So that was the answer to your question. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all those good wishes. So any other queries? If I'm an individual user, wouldn't it be beneficial for me to invest on hardware rather than cloud? I mean, I would have sole ownership and it feels like a one time investment rather than paying for cloud service every time I use it. So okay, so I'll try to answer this question. So, yes, if you're individual, you might feel that it'll be better to invest on hardware rather than cloud. But I guess you should not just look for the just for the investment aspect, like hardware will be an asset to you, because hardware is a physical thing and it might be damaged, and there's nothing that you can take assurance of. Whereas the other, cloud service providers, they help you, they provide security, and they maintenance of your data. So I don't think, hardware will be such an asset to an individual, because also with hardware you'll have to travel everywhere taking that hardware. That will make it difficult for you to access the services, even in remote areas, etc. So I feel that that would be a that would be a greater asset. Oh, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, any other questions? Well, thank you, everyone. It would not have been possible without your support. Okay, so I was expecting for questions, but thank you for the appreciations, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so I guess that was it. So, thank you, everyone.